If I must starve, let it be in your arms by Ignium 807. Chapter 5. They have to let Geralt leave the house right eventually, of course, and if they're being honest, Eskel and Lambert are too preoccupied with the ache under their skins to worry about grilling him any further. Lambert leaves shortly after Geralt, but Eskel stays, soaking and thinking. Geralt surprises everyone, perhaps none more than himself, when he brings it up again a few nights later.
He'd like to meet you,
Geralt says and falls abruptly silent again. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. Vesemir is away from the hall, tending to matters in another part of the keep, leaving only Eskel and Lambert to hear the quiet words. They don't have to ask who Geralt is talking about. You would? Lambert asks cautiously. Geralt grunts non-committally. He makes the mistake of looking up from the sword he's sharpening, only to be speared by two sets of hungry, piercing eyes. He knows that look all too well. It hurts to see, and he decides that maybe, just maybe, a little more effort is called for in this conversation.
He asks after you sometimes, about what you like, how we grew up together.
A fond smile teases at Lambert's lips, and Eskel's eyes light up with mischief. Oh, the stories I could tell your bard, Geralt, he teases. Do you remember that summer when you—
Shut up.
Geralt growls. I know, he doesn't mean it. The only sound is the crackle of logs in the fireplace and the low rasp of metal as it's dragged over a whetstone. Lambert breaks the quiet. I'd like to meet him, he says. Eskel nods his assent. There is a choice to be made. Geralt can let the issue drop, can let it be just one more meaningless conversation amongst decades of the same, and it will never be brought up again. His brothers will walk the path once more, alone like he used to be, never crossing paths with the bard who has brought Geralt so much joy. Or he can say something, can push the conversation from speculation to certainty, from idle chatter into a solid, spoken offer. It would be so easy to say nothing. But he remembers long days on the path, cold nights, the disdain in human eyes as he passes through their towns. Geralt chooses to speak.
We don't travel together all the time.
He says, gazes fixed firmly on the edge of his blade.
Some weeks he needs to go one way, and I another.
Geralt pulls in a deep breath, the weight of his brother's eyes on his chest like an extra plate of armor.
I do not think he would be averse to company.
He does not need to say the other thing hanging in the back of his mind, that he would like to know Jaskier does not have to travel alone. One of his brothers may be willing to watch his back when Geralt cannot. There are so many monsters in the world, and Geralt is only one man. Lambert's pulse is pounding loud enough for Geralt to hear across the room. Eskel's is as well, though he's better at controlling it. Do you think you would— Lambert trails off uncertain. Words hang between them, unspoken, but still echoing to the deepest reaches of Kaer Morhen's cavernous ceilings. After all their years together, Geralt can read the silence well. Do you think he would welcome us as he did you? Would he hold us close, not as lovers, but as friends? Can one bard's heart be big enough for that?
Yes.
It's a simple answer, an honest answer. It washes over Geralt's brothers like a balm. He gives them a minute to process before adding,
But if you put one single finger where he doesn't want it, I'll rip your cocks out through your throats.
Jaskier doesn't even flinch when a body presses against his back and two large hands settle on his hips. He knows that body. He trusts those hands. Hello, love, he says brightly. Jaskier leans back into the hold, lute held loose in his arms, and tilts his head so he can see Geralt's eyes. How was Cegwyn?
Boring,
Comes the answering rumble. Hands come up to pull Jaskier's fingers from his instrument.
Put that down.
Jaskier grins. He places the lute down gently against a wall. He was standing outside the stables of yet another inn waiting for Geralt, and turns into his lover's embrace. A yelp of surprise is knocked out of him when Geralt picks him up to press him against the wall behind them, Jaskier's legs fitting neatly around his waist, lithe body held with little effort by the arms around him.
Not enough challenging monster killing anymore,
He teases. Jaskier reaches out to tuck a curl of white hair behind Geralt's ear. It's cleaner than he expected after so long apart. Geralt must have taken a dug in a stream before coming to town.
Miss you.
Is all he says, and Jaskier melts. Jaskier wants to say something sappy back, but they are quickly nearing the limit of how much sweetness Geralt can take at once. He deals with action much better than words. So Jaskier tightens his legs around Geralt's hips and leans down to steal a kiss.
Miss you too, darling.
He nips at Geralt's ear.
Why don't you take me upstairs and I'll show you just how much?
Geralt puts him down with an eager noise, and Jaskier leads him upstairs, laughing all the way. They lie in bed together, a tangle of limbs. Geralt breathes deep, soaking in the smells of pleasure and happiness wafting from Jaskier's skin, like spiced apples and honey wine, like the first ray of sun through the remnants of a thunderstorm. Jaskier's fingers tangle in his hair. Later, when he doesn't feel quite so vulnerable, Geralt will ask him to braid it. For now, all he wants is to enjoy the press of skin on skin, the warmth of Jaskier's breath in the hollow of his throat. He loves these silent moments, though the silent bit never lasts long.
I ran into your brother,
Jaskier says. His voice breaks the quiet, but it does not break the moments. Geralt is too warm and content to think much, and far too satisfied for real worry.
Which one?
He mumbles. The smell of honey wine spikes in his nose as Jaskier tugs lightly at the hair in his hand, scratching at Geralt's scalp the way he likes so much.
Lambert. He's a real sweetheart, you know. Not that he'd be happy to hear me say it out loud, mind, but he is. We travelled together for a few days, and I got some great song material out of it. He's a fabulous storyteller, unlike some people I know.
Geralt hums.
You love me,
He says, just to feel the shiver that ripples down Jaskier's spine upon hearing it.
even if my stories suck.
Well, yes, Jaskier says, his voice breathy and pleased.
Obviously. But it was nice to meet another Witcher, especially one you're close with. I can see why you trust him so much. I'm glad he found you,
Jaskier says, only half aware of his own words. Jaskier's hand stills in his hair.
Found me?
Crap! Geralt tenses up on instinct and tries to relax a second later because Jaskier will notice, damn it! Always notices! He always finds the thing Geralt doesn't want to talk about, and he always makes them talk about it anyway!
Geralt?
Jaskier starts.
What do you mean he found me? Told him you'd be in Redania a while, if he wanted to meet you.
That should be enough. It would be, for anyone but Jaskier. But Geralt can hear the gears grinding in his thoughts, can practically smell the pieces falling into place. He crushes down the panic that forms in his chest. Jaskier stares at the edge of the bed they're curled up on, brows pinched in concentration.
Lambert was lonely,
He says slowly.
and you told him to come find me in Redania.
All of the warmth floods out of Geralt's body, leaving him bereft and shivering. He's suddenly painfully afraid that this is it. This is the stupid, unthinking, emotionally idiotic thing that will drive Jaskier from his side forever.
Jaskier,
He starts, but the bard's voice cuts over his own.
you told your mothers to come find me if they needed a hug?
The world is spinning out of control. Geralt feels like the bed is falling away underneath him. The only thing that tethers him to the ground is that honey wine sunshine smell that has yet to disappear. But it will, he's sure. It will disappear, and it will take Jaskier with it.
Jaskier, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
A growl of frustration works its way out of Geralt's throat.
I would never take advantage.
Those words snap something in Jaskier. He stops staring into the distance, focusing instead on the man in his arms. Horror sweeps across his face.
Oh, darling,
he says with a gasp.
No, 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 you did not take advantage of me. I'm just overwhelmed, really, that's so...
Jaskier pauses to fall at a breath. He presses their lips together in a tender kiss, the smell of honey and apples so strong Geralt could run in it.
Geralt, that is the sweetest thing I have ever heard.
The panic recedes. Geralt is still tense, jaw clenched uncomfortably, poised on the brink of pulling out of Jaskier's arms if the bard tells him to, but he feels a lot less like throwing up than he did a second ago.
I should have asked,
He says roughly. Jaskier cradles Geralt's face in his hands, forcing the Witcher to meet his eyes as he says,
No, you did just the right thing, my love. You saw a need in people you care about and you addressed it.
He smiles, blinding in the low light.
You told them that they should look for me, but anything that happened after that was completely up to me. You gave both of us a choice, yes? No one was taken advantage of, least of all me. I'm grateful, truly, to be able to forge friendships with your brothers.
Geralt lets out a breath he didn't know he was holding, muscles relaxing as Jaskier runs his hands down his arms.
Are you sure? Absolutely, completely sure.
Jaskier answers, pulls Geralt close again, dropping kisses along the edge of his shoulder, palms soothing over his back.
I'm not angry, Geralt. I'm proud, actually.
Geralt puffs out a breath that Jaskier correctly interprets as a question.
I mean it. That conversation must have been difficult, and I'm damn proud that you had it.
Jaskier pulls back so he can meet Geralt's eyes.
How did the topic even come up? They cornered me in the hot spring.
Jaskier practically vibrates out of his skin at that, the citrus scent of amusement mixing in the air with all of his other emotions. Jaskier is glowing!
They cornered you in the hot spring?
Geralt nods, and Jaskier laughs aloud, head tilted back and eyes crinkled in an expression of pure joy.
Sweet Valentine,
He chuckles.
I would pay my last coin to have witnessed that type of conversation.
He laughs away Geralt's unease. They fall asleep that way, pressed together as close as possible, barely there, smiles on each of their faces, the scent of honey and sunshine sick between them. The White Wolf and his bard carve a path through the heartland of Cadwin for a month, leaving a path of slain monsters and musically educated villagers behind them. They fall into an easy rhythm of touches and kind words, the casual intimacy of two people who are so used to living together that it is hard to imagine anything else. Geralt saves Jaskier from one or two angry beasts when he strays too close to the fights. Jaskier lets him fuss when they go back to the inn, and they fall asleep in the same bed, any arguments from the day forgotten beneath warm fingers and gentle breath. Jaskier debuts a few new songs that become instant hits. It's as beautiful as life on the path can be. Fate draws them apart after 4 weeks. There are rumors of a winged beast in Aedirn that Geralt needs to look into, and a competition for bards is being held by a noblewoman in Temeria that Jaskier simply must win. He braids Geralt's hair the morning they part, tucking bright yellow flowers into every corner of the braid. They kiss goodbye at the crossroads with plans to meet again soon as they can. Geralt does it backward as Jaskier walks away. He definitely doesn't wait until Jaskier's figure disappears down the road before urging Roach to move. And if both those things are a lie, Jaskier never needs to know. As musical competitions go, the one Eskel is watching isn't half bad. He leans against a marble wall, surveying the crowd, and sips from a glass of wine. The nobles in the room all assume that the hostess of the event, Countess Ariemi, hired him for protection. She did not. Eskel is there for his personal reasons, or rather, reason. One specific reason, with bright blue eyes and an elven lute. The woman on stage finishes her last song to raucous applause. Her seat is filled a few seconds later by a man who matches Geralt's description of Jaskier perfectly. Eskel shifts out of the shadows as subtly as he can and tilts his head towards the man, making eye contact as he begins his set. The man, Jaskier, Eskel's sure of it now, grins back at him, completely unbothered by the pendant around his neck that marks him as a witcher. Eskel's quite good with that mood of his. The crowd is on its feet by the second song, and even Eskel is nodding along to a few of the tunes that he recognizes from snippets in town squares and inns he's passed. Jaskier takes a flamboyant bow at the end of his performance, winning both the competition and the heart of every maiden in the audience. Eskel was planning to introduce himself once the massive admirers around the bar dispersed a little, but to his surprise, Jaskier comes right up to him after receiving his prize.
He smells of triumphant joy and not a hint of uncertainty. Eskel wants to live in that smell. Lovely to meet you, Eskel. Jaskier greets him. Eskel raises an eyebrow at the correct guess of his name, and he gets a grin in return. I know your brothers, the bard explains. I hear you fucking one of them, Eskel says, a note of challenge in his voice. Frequently and with passion, I assure you. Jaskier shoots back. What brings you to this lovely corner of Temeria tonight? The music. Eskel tilts his head to the crowd. All the performances are over, but a hall full of bards is never quiet. And Gikimora a few times over. His mouth carries on the conversation without too much input from his brain because Eskel's brain has flown out the door. He wants, gods does he want, but he doesn't know how to do this. It took more effort to dress nicely and haul himself to this competition than Eskel will ever admit out loud. He doesn't have any experience asking for things that he wants, that he needs, much less asking for something as intimate and personal as this. Eskel is just about to give up and consign himself to another few decades of ceaseless longing when Jaskier asks where he's headed next. South to Sodden, he answers. Jaskier leans against the wall next to him and slings an arm over Eskel's shoulder. The heat of it burns through his shirt. Mind if I tag along?